Hello, I'm Daniel Steyn, a student of Byron Marshall, currently taking his cybersecurity class at Oregon State University, and I'm learning a lot. One of the things that students can dive into that is a crucial element of your computer and important to know for BIS students and anybody interested in computers is Windows Registry for Microsoft Windows computers. I'll take you through my journey of learning about Windows Registry and how it could even help you in and out of a professional setting. So let's start with a little bit of history. Computers have to store their settings somewhere, and for a while it used to be these INI files or INI files, but Microsoft would eventually move away from using the INI files and start using the Windows Registry. So what are INI files? INI files, they stand for initialization. They were text files that contained settings for just about anything in your computer. In these text files, one could mess around with some software configuration. I have a little example here where this here is an example INI file I made that would technically be that for the YouTube channel here, where you have your channel, you have the name of the channel, which is Byron Marshall, you have his bio, other information such as that. And if software wanted to access this certain information about it, they, like for example, the name of the channel, they could type channel dot, not type, but they could look for channel dot name, and they would receive here printed in green or highlighted in green, Byron Marshall. So this is an example of how it would work. This is a pretty simple example because in reality things were a lot more complicated and would become a little unorganized. So the shift to Windows Registry was almost necessary. Here comes Windows Registry 1992 with Windows 3.1. It was a lot like the INI files, but so much more. It was organized in a hierarchical database structure. As you see here, theoretically, this is what it would look like. One thing holds two different things, and these things also hold little things in themselves, and it sort of creates this tree sort of structure, as it's often referred to. But in practice, it might look a bit more like this. So your downloads folder in your Files Explorer, where one file opens up to other values or other little files here, and those open up into other things. This is what it more so looks like in practice. There were a number of benefits and improvements that were made by moving away from using the INI files. It showed a lot more about your computer's OS. Windows Registry could store more settings. Pieces of software could communicate with each other a lot easier. It could also keep track of multiple users on the same machine. Additionally, as seen here, it was just a lot easier to navigate, a lot more user-friendly than having to search through all these files with text files with a billion words. And this is all made possible by Registry Editor, as we see here. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about Registry Editor a bit, since that's what we standard computer users, me myself a student, would come across if I were to mess around with Windows Registry. It's also a great tool, not just for us standard people, but also for IT people, IT pros, as many of the fixes to operating systems tend to come from professionals messing around with the Windows Registry and regedit, as this is also popularly known as. Registry Editor, regedit, same thing. But we are not professionals, we are but students, so it's important that we proceed with caution if we intend to experiment with regedit, which we will do later on in the presentation. Don't worry, that demonstration will be completely safe. It's also worth noting that this is only for Windows computers, as I mentioned before. Feel free to follow along, though. Feel free to try out some of the examples yourself. It should all be safe. It should all be entirely safe. So if you're following along, let's see Windows Registry and regedit or Registry Editor for ourselves. Go find your desktop search bar, as you might see here, normally located at the bottom of your screen, and type either regedit or registry editor, as we see here, and something like this should appear. You can press open, you can press run as administrator, you can even click on the little icon. There's a possibility, though, that when you click open, you will be prompted by a window asking if you'd like registry editor to make changes to your device. This is completely fine if this happens. All right, a window like this should appear right after doing so. The first thing you might notice are folders that say H key and then some other words. These are root keys. These are called root keys, and they act as handles to more specific keys. In fact, that's actually what H key stands for. It stands for handle of registry keys. And yeah, predefined handles to keys, they are maintained in memory or stored in Hive files, which are stored locally on your computer. So let's talk a bit more about some of the vocab, like root keys, hives, keys that we've already mentioned, like values. What do these all mean? Let's dive into that a little bit more. Let's talk about root keys. So one of the main root keys we'll be talking about is HKey local machine. An HKey local machine looks a little bit like this when you open that root key. It stores settings that are specific to your local computer. It is maintained in memory by the system kernel, not on disk, and the system kernel is essentially the part of your operating system that manages how the hardware and software talk to each other. We won't go too much into that. And this is also the only H key that I've seen where you can't create additional subkeys. What's creating subkeys? That's totally fine. That's actually something we'll be trying out later, and you'll see why that might be useful. Another one we might look at is HKey classes root. And this contains all information about registered applications. So as we see here in this little example, I've opened up HKey classes root and all these weird random just letters and stuff like that. These are all applications that are registered by authorities and organizations, meaning it's okay to have on your computer. We have HKey users, and the little example here of me opening that up, this contains all the subkeys for HCU keys for user profiles on the machine. Naturally brings up, what are those? Well, this is the HKey current user, this folder here, and it stores settings specific to currently logged in users on the computer. It is also linked to subkeys in the HKU over here. So they work in tandem with one another, containing information about who uses the computer, what's on the computer, etc. Then finally, the one we'll look at is HKey current config or configuration, and this acts as sort of a pointer shortcut to registry keys that keep information about software being used on your computers. You can see here we have the system hardware, and then we got the software as well. It sort of just helps people manage the root keys, manage the registry editor. This is what the slide looks like without all the extra jumble of graphs, so you can try to see how everything connects to one another. We'll get some additional vocab here. We have hives. So hives, as I've tried to highlight in yellow here, these are disk files where branches of the registry are stored. Remember how we were talking about the hierarchical database structure of Windows Registry, meaning everything is stored within hives, stored within more hives. You'll see this highlighted in yellow here. We open this one, the H key local, the root key stored in the hive, and this opens up all of these. What are these? Well, these are keys, especially these, as highlighted in green here, and these contain subkeys, keys within keys, and within these keys are values. So this is sort of a root key within itself, but this is the root key, this is just a regular key. Then you have the subkeys highlighted in blue. So I got a little address here that is also the same as up here. As you open certain files, certain keys, it'll appear up here, which is super handy. You can see where you're going. In my little example here, the subkey HP1 agent is the subkey of HP, which is the subkey of the key we just talked about, which in this case is software, which is a key of the root key, which is stored on the hive. I hope all of this is sort of blending together and making sense. Then we have values, and these are non-container objects that are similar to files. They look like this. So this would be the data, the values that exist within these keys and subkeys. All right, so I hope all of this has been making sense. We've learned some of the vocab while exploring the format of Windows Registry. I hope it's been making sense. Maybe putting it to use will help make it make even more sense. So let's try some of that out. I got a demonstration here that is completely safe, very, very small demonstration. It's completely harmless to your computer and is strictly meant to show you one of the minor capabilities of regedit. And it's a fun, easy little tool that makes navigating your desktop maybe a little bit easier, maybe a little bit more private for whatever reason you might find. Let's shoot for it. So here we go. Here's our little prompt that we're going to try out. Let's make it possible for us to access Microsoft Edge, the browser. If you don't use Microsoft Edge, that's fine. I don't, but we'll use this as an example, through the menu that appears when right-clicking on your desktop background. So what does that mean? Here's what it would normally look like if you were to right-click on your background. This is kind of what mine looks like. I click Show More Options, and nothing should seem out of the ordinary. Maybe you don't have GitHub on there. That's fine. Shouldn't be any surprises, though. Now let's go back and review what we learned earlier about how to open Registry Editor, because now we're gonna try something out. So get to this screen, which again, look up regedit, look up Registry Editor, get to here, click on that, and get to this window here, where it shows us all the root keys. When on this screen, go to this path here, this HKey class, this root directory background shell, and you can follow what I did in this little demonstration here. I click on the root key, and then I click on the key directory. Well, I actually try to find directory, but you have to scroll very far down for a long time to find it. So sometimes the easier method is to just take this path, this address, and just type it in up here between the space where it says file and where you have all the junk we're messing around with. And it should take you to something that looks like this. So highlighted in blue is what you should, highlighted in yellow is what you should be looking at. We got the directory. I've opened the directory key to get to the background subkey, to get to the shell subkey, which is the subkey of the background subkey. And things should look a lot like this. When ready, right-click on shell right here, and then click new. There's a good video demonstration on the slide here. I right-click, I go to new, and then I go to key. Then a new key will be created for us. Yay, I will name this key, the subkey, MS Edge, since that's going to be the application. I'm going to open it. You can name it whatever you want. I recommend MS Edge just for the sake of the demonstration. So what has this done? We did something very small. Let's see if we actually made it in progress. So before we touched Registry Editor, we're looking around. This is the exact same video as before. Nothing here that resembles MS Edge at all. But after we edit, I go down to Show More Options, and I click on that, and what do we have here? MS Edge. We've already done an interesting thing with our computer. Super easy. Did something pretty cool, something we're proud of. But as you might try when you experiment yourself, when you click on that MS Edge, nothing will happen. That's because there's no value data in that subkey, in that little option in the menu that we've created. So let's try to add some data. What we're going to do here is right-click on MS Edge, and go back to regedit, click on right-click on MS Edge, as I do here, and create a new key. So another subkey within the subkey, and name it command. It's incredibly important that you make sure that this name is all lowercase. That's just how it's formatted. Name this key demand. When in doubt, just follow the video. Should be pretty straightforward, but I understand hiccups can arise. Now that we've reached here, we're going to see that we have a value in our little command subkey here, but there's nothing really there. Name is default, there's no data, there's no nothing. Yours might say value not assigned or something like that. That's fine, that's the spot we want to be. So what you're going to do from here is you're going to double click on the name. You're going to double click on default here, as I do here, and you're going to see this value data. It's going to be blank, and you're going to want to take this address and paste it in there. You can type it in there word for word as you see it on the slide, or you can go to your file explorer, find this address, which I'll show how to do later on, and paste it in there, and you'll see this is the following path, as it now appears in the data. So now we've given the value data to work with. When in doubt, just follow the video. So we did this very simple thing. We just pasted a pathway in. Let's see what happens now when we try the same thing we've been trying the entire time. All right, I right-click. I go down to Show More Options. There's MS Edge. We already accomplished. And now when I click on it, an MS Edge window appears. Boom. We did something great. This is amazing. This is very, very cool. It's important, though, and I understand that sometimes you might mess up. And that might come from, if nothing happens, that might come from maybe missing a certain letter or input when you were putting in the data. This happened to me. I missed the final quotation, and I couldn't figure it out for like 5 minutes, and then I realized, yes. So you want to really make sure that you really nail that down. And yeah, this is pretty cool, but it's pretty simple. I didn't need to click on the application of MS Edge now to get this possible. So what could this possibly mean? This could mean a number of different things for you. Maybe this is something good for privacy. I don't know. But alas, we have used regedit to our advantage to do something we wouldn't normally be able to do on our computers when we just have them. It's a simple and a small change, but just imagine what's capable when you do just a bit more research. Windows Registry has settings for everything, so anything is possible, especially if you proceed with caution and you know what you're doing. You can do the exact same thing with other applications as well. Here, I'm copying the pathway from my file explorer, where I can paste into a new subkey the same way I did with MS Edge in regedit. But now instead, it would open Terraria. So here you can just click on the application. You can click copy the path. I also have it here. You don't have to do this for Terraria. This is just an example of doing it with a different application. When you right click and then click on copying this pathway, this is how I quickly got my hands on the path that we used for MS Edge previously. Copy paste, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. All right, that's it for me today. We did a little lab. I hope some of these bullet points that you see here, which sort of define what Windows Registry is, I hope it makes sense. And I hope you have a better understanding of how Windows Registry can be a powerful tool for just about anybody who's interested in computers and operating systems. Lots of IT pros, as previously mentioned, use regedit to fix operating system issues. They use it to customize computers. You can use this for cybersecurity, and you can use it for so much more. This is also helpful information to be made aware of if you're intending to do something like take the ISACA certification exam, where they will ask questions about Windows Registry. Make sure that you have a knowledge of what it is, what it's capable of. I also encourage doing some of your own research too. I'm just a student. I'm just a regular student, and I found out almost all of this information from some Google searches, prompting AI in some way. Wikipedia was a big help, and so much more. The information is out there. I encourage you to go get it, and it'll make you so much more capable of doing really interesting things with your computer. I've been Daniel Steyn. I hope you've enjoyed and learned something. Have a great day.